and start recording. So, hi, if anybody is joining me on Ustream. So, yeah, hey, Lynn. Um, so, so, um, so anyway, I'm starting this off like I always do by sharing with you the introduction of A Course in Miracles, which is in your books. It is right behind the table of contents and right in front of the beginning of the text. I always recite it based on memory because I love reciting it, and I have no is .tv/ Sandra said it, just like my website, Sandra said it. Um, Thank you, Dove, for putting that up there, though. But as Sandra said it, so it's right in the front of your book. I always recite this based on memory, so I know sometimes I am not exactly saying it right, but I am saying it as it's supposed to come out, I guess, when I do say it. So don't be upset if I get a couple of words out of place. This is how it goes. It's the introduction. This is a course in miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The aim of the course is not to teach the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to your awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all encompassing can have no opposites. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way: nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Doesn't that make you feel good? Doesn't it make you just feel marvelous? I mean, just just knowing that, I mean, so the opposite of love is fear, but what is all encompassing can have no opposites. So I'm going to talk to you guys like I normally do, just talk and see what comes up and what comes out, and we'll both discover what it is that I'm supposed to be talking about together, you and I. And so today I'll give you a report. My dad was just when I got there to the hospital, the long-term acute care center, which is also a hospital. He was just laying there, and he had a fever. He was running a fever this morning, and as as I'm sitting there and getting these cold compresses, and I'm dabbing his head, and I'm talking to the doctors and the nurses and talking about the antibiotics that they were supposed to start or they're going to start. I felt like I was busy helping and doing what it was that was my part to do, which was lovely. But at the same time, I started thinking about, some of the things that I also need to put into practice, not just for myself, but for everybody that walks in the room. So one of the projects that I have for tonight is making an instruction sheet for my dad to talk about, for everybody who leans over his bed, to look at him and say, hey, I know your brain is steadily healing itself, developing new pathways. You are going to think better than you've ever thought. You're going to remember more than you've ever remembered. I'm going to go and I'm going to put a whole list of affirmations down about him, his health, his body, so that everybody who looks on him doesn't go and look and say, ah, but rather speaks power to him, speaks empowerment and healing over him. Because I think a lot of times we don't know, we don't recognize that everything we do carries with it a vibrational energy. Our thoughts, our feelings, our perceptions, our looks, all of it carries with it a vibration. And so I want to start to change the vibration of those who come around him, that vibrational energy that's there. So I want to work on that. And so I needed to first work on and get purposeful within me. And this is what, 6 weeks in. So it becomes this thing about being purposeful and on point at every moment, and knowing all of this carries with it something. Yeah, it's all in there. So for me, I needed to, to realign my thinking, and then start to realign those of those who come to visit him or see him, realign their thinking as well. You guys, this is so important. So what we do here in this room, and I think part of the reason why you come here is not just so you can learn more about the Course in Miracles. I mean, we could simply open up our books and see that. But part of it is getting in alignment with a certain vibration, and knowing, that all this stuff that we're doing has a purpose and a reason. You are among the ministers of God. And that means that you're not just taking a course in miracles, you are a miracle worker. And so as a miracle worker, there is a responsibility upon our lives. I know you need do nothing, because if you are trying to purposely direct miracles, you have already kind of tried to usurp the power of God and gone around that. But here's the thing. I think it's so important, for us to get a clue. It's not to teach the meaning of love, for that's beyond what can be taught, right? But a lot of times what we do is that we block our awareness to love and love's presence by our judgments about love and loving. So if we're sitting there, and like I said, from Jump Street, like my verbal things, if I'm saying I know in some arenas there are people who are sitting there and judging that, and they're so caught up in whether or not I am conjugating my verbs correctly or pronouncing my words the word. They're so caught up in critical thinking and criticizing that they can't see the real thing that's back of this, the real thing that's coming through. So you here in the room, you miracle workers, you sons and daughters of God, you know the truth, and so you don't need to realign your thinking. But sometimes we do need to check in and say, hey, is this my highest thought? Is this the highest I can bring here? And so you need do nothing, but don't block love by being judgmental about other people and their loving. Because what happens is that we put the blocks in the way. When it says to remove your blocks, to remove the blocks to your awareness of love's presence, it's not something else that's blocking your awareness to love's presence. It's you who block your awareness to love's presence. Nobody else is doing it. It's you. And so if you want to then change it, if you want to change around how you're sharing, then work on self. Work on self. Yeah. So yes. Hey, Lynn, you're so cute. So let's be about the business of aligning ourselves constantly and consciously with what it is that we want to be our experience. You need do nothing is true. But if you're vibrating on some other junk, on all that other stuff that we get from the world at large, then you can't even do what it is that you do so naturally, which is to love. Oh my gosh. It's so funny because so many people want so badly to be the very best. I mean, that's an ego thought, isn't it? We want to be the best. We want to do it this way. We want to do it that way. And when we're trying to one up somebody else, it necessarily takes us out of that realm of being loving, of sharing ourselves and knowing that we're all equals. It takes us out of that realm. And so in order for us to be back in that realm, let's remove all of that stuff and just be the love that we are. Absolutely. Okay. So Lynn, I hope am I recording it? I'm recording it on Ustream, but for some reason I still haven't figured out how to just record an audio. Um, I don't know. I don't know what it is. And maybe it's because once I cut this thing off, I don't revisit it very often. And I'm out of the house most of the day, and I'm sitting here with two computers now. One of them streaming Ustream, and the other one, the Pow Talk. And so I got to work on it. I got to work on it. So yeah, here we go. And absolutely Be the Love was great last year, and the venue, food, natural surroundings can't be beat. I'm assuming you're talking about Chicago. So, oh, and Barrett left already. I didn't even see that. Hi, bye, Barrett. Okay, so oh, bless your heart, Lynn. That's so great. That's so great. So okay, so um so where was I? Where was I going with this? So today I decided that at my, when I was there with my dad, and so I'm going to put those things in motion this evening, and that's one of the things that I wanted to work on. But it's funny because so many things came up for me today as I was sitting there, and for me, I don't know about how everybody else operates, but I can spiritualize everything. I can make everything that happens about a life lesson. I see a guy coming through sweeping with a broom, and I have a sermon about that. I see a nurse that is ministering to somebody, and I've got a sermon about that. I go to a hairdresser and I start talking about why they call it cosmetology, because you're dealing with my cosmos, and so I started talking about the energy and the power in your hands and how you're sending out. And I got a sermon for that. I meet people all the time on the street, and just, people walking up, absolutely having no idea of who I am or anything. And I say, well, so I asked the question, so what's your name? And they tell me their name. And so I'm like, well, according to, etymology, this, your name means this and it means that. And oh, that's a powerful name. And are you walking in your calling? And I started talking about, Sandra, it means helper of people, and bishop, you know what a bishop is. And you put the two together. I was like, I'm walking in my calling because I'm doing what it is that I was, what I was called to do. And so it becomes this thing of everybody's name having a meaning, everybody having a purpose based on what your calling is. And if you don't think it's, so it's funny. Once you start looking up your name and seeing what the vibrational is around, yes, the fisher of men. Once you see what the vibrational energy is around your name, you can start to see whether or not you're truly walking in your calling and what you are here to do. So I got a sermon about everything. And I don't mean to be, and I'm not trying to be, and I don't think it comes across as being preachy, but for some reason it's like I see everything as if it fits together, because it really does. It really does. Art art Boda Runner, Big Potato. I Is that art? Okay, so I mean, but you get my point. So and for those of you who may be listening on the radio, I'm reading also off of the board. We have a chat room here in Pal Talk, where the teachers, ministers, students, all of us, we chat back and forth on this little chat room wall. So if you are listening on the radio, I'm sure there is a link there where you can also get on and talk and see the chat that's going on inside of Pal Talk as I talk. So I have this sermon, and I've got these sermons about everything, and I'm always looking at everything to see what the meaning behind it is. I mean, I look at everything as if it is alive. There was a book that I read years ago, and I don't know who the author is, but the title was what got me. The title of the book was Acting as if the God in all of life mattered. acting as if the God in all of life mattered. And so this woman talked and she told the story sort of about her life, but she started talking about how when she moved to her divine right place, energetic wise, she kind of let life show her where she was supposed to move to. When she moved to the place, she talked about the garden and the trees and the animals and everything. And she spoke to everything because she says that there is life in everything. And so when she was even planting her garden, she would sit there and she would like send out a prayer to the nature spirits, I think is what she called them. And she would pray and she would say, you know what, I need all the worms to move out of this here section because this is where I'm digging at. And she said, and true, lo and behold, these worms, they when as she would dig and as she would plant, she wouldn't come across any worms. And then she would ask them to come back because they're there because they need to cultivate that land. And so, even when she was chopping down trees and whatever she did, she always respected the God in all of life. And so I try, and as I approach everything, to be conscious that there is a consciousness in and to everything, no matter what it is. And sometimes we think of some objects as inanimate objects and not having life. But it was so bizarre too. And I'm going to get to, I know y'all are probably sitting up there thinking, how does this have to do with the Course in Miracles? I'm getting to that. It'll all come together, trust me. So it's funny. I was watching this little documentary on PBS one morning, and there was a guy who was living out someplace, and he started. There was some turkeys, some wild turkeys that he kind of connected with, and he was just talking about as these turkeys started to grow up, how he would go out on these walks with these turkeys and actually got to know their language and all this other stuff. And he said that even a stump of a tree, he was like, for some reason, he says animals can sense life or the absence of life or the old life that used to be in things that we as humans have no sense of, like as if they have a certain way of seeing that is very different from ours. And so we sit here at a wooden table at a desk that's made of wood, and we think that there's no life in it because we've chopped down the tree. But we also know, based on what we've learned in science, that everything is made of these atoms. These atoms have protons and neutrons. These protons and neutrons are constantly in motion, even though we can't see them with our own eye. So whether or not we know it or not, it's some things are more dense and heavier. But if at its base it has an atom, it has some type of movement that's going on within its system. And so yes, you can, everything has an energy. And that makes me want to sing that song from Pocahontas, like, you know, how high would the sycamores grow? But if we cut them down, how will we ever know? And because everything, the wind, the air, it has a presence, it has an energy. And what are we giving into it? How are we interacting with it? How are we breathing life into everything that we think, say, and do? So it becomes, incumbent upon us to be aware of how we are in the world. So it's no different when we start to deal, so the course, as we go through the course talks about how we interact with each other, right? How we are part of the sonship and all of this stuff is connected. It goes through and it talks about that, but it also is this thing of, yeah, I know. Some of us like it because it seems to, and see the universe in a grain of sand. Yes. So it seems to just kind of like be here and speak to, this whole thing of how we are with one another, but also just, what is it that I'm putting out? What is it that I'm what kind of energy, what kind of vibration am I carrying? So yeah, do nothing, but in doing nothing, do it lovingly, and know that everything that you're putting out there is being received and being heard and being felt on some level by somebody somewhere, no matter what. God is in everything we see, the trees, the flowers, the animals, everything. Remember the movie, what was that movie? No, it wasn't Illuminati. It was something else that was kind of like weird. Um, anyway, he was talking about cut a tree and I am there, lift up a rock and I am there, and it was this whole thing of no matter where you look, no matter which way you look, no matter how you look, God. There is nothing else. As a matter of fact, I like to tell people that it wasn't as if God made the earth and put it over there. God made the earth out of itself. And so this very thing, this very essence of what we are, all of it is God. Just out of its own self created all that is. And so you are the very essence of what God is. God through and through. So it's important for us to understand that. Whew, so let me breathe. So today, as I come in here, I come in here to talk about so much. Um, and yeah, spring is around the corner. I love springtime too, Chris. And what we are looking at is what we are looking out of. That is so true. The branches of the vine. Yeah, it is so true. It is so true. So I always say that to people that you are the lensing point of God consciousness here on earth. And a lot of times when we don't know that, when people don't know that, it's as if you've seen a water hose. It's as if we've taken a water hose and we've shrunk it down as far as it can go. And we're only letting through a drop of water at a time. When really what God is meant for you to do is to be, at your fullness, to be express your full self. And so there's no need to clamp down. There's no need to strain off. There's no need for you to think that you are less than the wonderfulness that you are. There's no need. And when you do that, it's almost as if you're kind of flying at half of your level or your ability. And so when you do that, it becomes this thing of you start to feel somewhat crippled, and so as I was thinking about that too today with my dad, I was thinking to myself, like, let's speak power into stuff. Let us use our words to speak power into one another, to bear witness to the greatness inherent. I know, but on another level, it's like, minister. If you are a minister of God, minister. What does that mean? What does it mean? So all I'm trying to do is share what it is that is in me with you. And as I'm teaching, I'm constantly teaching who I am. You're learning who I am because I'm showing you who I am. I couldn't do this without you, right? So it becomes this thing of, they said that salvation is a collaborative venture. It means that there's this thing, this exchange that goes on. You and I, we're exchanging energy. We are exchanging something with one another. And as we exchange that energy, as we're doing that thing with one another, oh, we're blessing each other, and the miracle takes place in that exchange. I love it. 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 So, um, so what did I come to talk about? I don't even know now, because I mean, I've kind of gone off on a tangent. So, did I want to tell you a story? I think I wanted to tell you a story. I think I wanted to tell you a story. And so which one can I tell? And you share with great beauty. Thank you, sweetie. So let me see, which one can I tell? There's so many stories that I could tell. And let me think. So So I was telling you about, okay, so here's where I was. I was telling you about how everything turns into a sermon for me, no matter where I go, no matter who I run into. It always becomes this fodder for discussion, something I see in it that reminds me of a lesson, or something that I need to share, something that I need to learn, or or whatever. So today was no different. I got phone calls, but I also ran into um, some guy at the hospital, at the long-term acute care center. I ran into some guy, and he started telling me about his mother, and all the stuff that's happened to his mother. And he said that they had told him, like they told me, that his mother was basically brain dead and would be that way, and that there was really nothing that they could do about it. And so he started talking about the friction that was happening between him and his sister, based on how they each wanted to deal with this, and they seemed to not be able to see eye to eye. And as I listened to him, he started talking about, he was like, he says, but even after they told me that my mother was brain dead and that she would never, know who I was, he said at some point she just opened her eyes and she called me by name. And he was like, and so that was a miracle. That was his miracle. That was the miracle that he saw. And so he, and similar story with my dad, although he hasn't been able to talk. It's been a similar story with my dad, when the doctors tell you what can't happen, what won't happen, and then you see it happen. Well, even in that, I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, you know what? No matter how this goes, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with whatever happens, but at the same time, there is a part of me that says that this is not an ending, but rather a beginning. I talked yesterday about this idea of us having constant beginnings and endings, the beginning, the middle, the end, and this constancy in our lives, no matter what we're going through. If it's a relationship, if it's school, if it's a new way of seeing, a new way of being, it's a beginning, a middle, and an end. All of this stuff kind of follows that same kind of pattern all over again in repetition: beginning, middle, end. No matter what you're going through, beginning, middle, end. Even dinner, there's the beginning, the middle, and the end. There's the preparation, there's the going out, and there's the coming back. I talk a lot about the power of myth and stories, because they encapsulate within the story these rich lessons for our lives. So, like, even as I sit here and I talk to you about this stuff, I know that there is a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end to what I'm going to be saying here. You, in your thinking, in your thoughts, a thought is a beginning level. A thought is a seed. A thought is some place that starts off. Then you will have the middle. It'll be all your thoughts that you have about the thoughts that are shared. And then you'll draw a conclusion, which is a beginning, a middle, and an end. All of it kind of goes along to that pattern, everything. And I don't know why, it just does. We're born, we live a life, and then we die. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end to our day. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I mean, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so, as I thought about this, I'm thinking to myself, okay, where are we in this? This is a course. This is a course. This is a course in miracles. It's a course in miracles. So as a beginner, we were picking up a book. There is this thing I always say, that, that there's three kinds of knowing. There's the knowing about, then there's, we kind of, like, so say for instance, when I first heard about the Course in Miracles, I heard about it because I read A Return to Love. So I knew about the book. I knew that there was supposed to be three books. I knew that it was, that the books, I knew what they looked like. I knew all that stuff. I knew what the pages looked like, because I even bought the three books. I had that. And then I started to read it. And then, okay, so then I got a knowledge of the book. I kind of, I knew about the book. I knew about what it said. I knew it like that. But then there became an experiential level of knowing. So then it became, these words were not just words in a book, but started to live for me. They started to be something more than just a paragraph that I look in a book. It started becoming this thing that applied to my life, that I could see it at work. I could understand it in a whole nother level. I could sit there and say, like yesterday when I was talking about the lesson that said, I am not a victim of the world I see. I could look at it and I can say, wow, you know what? I can say that. It's not just words for me. It's not just words anymore. It becomes something more. It becomes a workable, if you wanted to take an equation or something, it's like a plus sign. When you see a plus sign, you know what to do. When you see a minus sign, it directs you what to do. When you see a division sign, it directs you what to do. So it becomes this experience that directs your path and shows you what to do. My holiness envelops everything I see. So I don't just walk into a room and just, let the room be. My holiness envelops everything I see. It's a vibration that I carry with me. My holiness envelops everything that I see. And so it becomes a way of not just experiencing a room, but a way of enveloping and redefining what I see. And so when I talk to the guy in the hallway, when I talk to the man that I talked to yesterday, I don't just talk to them. Because I know that I connect with them. I know, as a minister of God, I'm there and I'm saying, okay, Holy Spirit, what would you have me do? What would you have me say? How would you have me to be in this moment? How would you have me to be? What would you have me to do? And so let my presence be a healing presence. Let my presence be one of love. Let my presence be transformative in some type of way. And it's not because it's about me. It's because this is my brother here. And as I offer healing to him, I get healing. And guess what? All of us are healed in that process, in that exchange. So my holiness is not just words on a paper. It's not just something that is there. It is something that I know on another level. I experience on another level, just like you do. My holiness blesses the world. There is nothing that my holiness cannot do. Oh, I mean, come on. I mean, is that not enough to make you just have a shiver me timbers? I mean, you know, my there is nothing my holiness cannot do. So what is not love is a call for love. My holiness can reinterpret a situation for you, because yours can do the same in any situation, no matter where you go. All you and you need do nothing. Just simply knowing is enough. Yeah, some of us like to go to another level. Some of us like to, say, you know what? There's another way of looking at this. As I was talking to this guy today, it was so funny because one of the things that I said to him I said to him, I said, your sister hasn't changed. I was like, she's the same person she's always been. We like to think, excuse me, we like to think that people change over time. You know, um, but more or less we stay exactly the same. We learn a few things, and we may bring different energy to it, but more or less I'm the same person today as I was as a 2-year-old. That 2-year-old was still this lovey huggy, okay, I'm a cry baby, or whatever it was I was doing. The same things that I was doing at 2 years old, I'm doing now at 42 years old. I'm a little older than 42, but you know what I mean. So it becomes this thing of, we haven't changed, but what we do is we find better ways of expressing what it is that is within us. So if I was a loving child, I'm a loving adult. If I was an unhappy child, you know what? Sometimes I learned that I was thinking wrong back then. I was thinking wrong back then. I'll tell you, as a teenager, I was totally depressed. I was going through adolescence. Adolescence is that middle part that's kind of like that crazy part. I was in there and I was experiencing what I was experiencing. And yes, I was just, I was in that place. It was like, oh, so depressing. And so I have allowed I've taken the blocks off of myself. And let me explain that because I need to digress here because I want to explain that to you guys too. Um, at one point, I had so many judgments, so many restrictions, so many expectations on myself that I couldn't possibly be happy. Just wasn't even possible for me to be happy. Um, when I started getting okay with me, when I started just looking at my stuff and saying, oh, I love it anyway. So no matter what it was, if it was my weight,